We're talking. And here is your host, Richard Bay.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you. This is America, right? Country built on free enterprise. You have a good idea, you turn it into a product, and then you go out and sell it, and you make $1 million. Anybody can be successful in this country with the right product. Our guests this morning are successful business people, or have been successful business people, but there is a slight difference. What they sell is sex. Something that is illegal in this country. Call it prostitution. We have laws against it. But they feel, some of the people that you're going to be hearing this morning, that they are just in a business, there is a demand for their product, and they are very good at selling it. Let me introduce you to our guest this morning. Krista is behind the screen. She is a madam. She wants to be anonymous today because she wants to protect her children. Rachel worked as a prostitute in Beverly Hills. She says that her clientele were doctors, lawyers, other professionals. She says the men used to fight over her all the time. She is no longer a prostitute at this time, although she has been walking around this morning flashing her breasts at me and the makeup people and the studio audience. Joe and Bob Rose are editors of what they call the Consumer's Guide to Commercial Sex in New York and the surrounding area. Their magazine is called New York Scene, and inside of this you'll find detailed accounts and ratings of massage parlors, houses of prostitution, escort services, in-call and out-call services. And also on the end right there is Bishop Magic Juan, who was a pimp for 13 years before he found Jesus. Please welcome all of our guests to the show this morning. Okay, Rachel, let me move on to you. You were a prostitute at one time.
Yes, that's right. When I was about 20 years old, I was very destitute at the time, and so...
How'd you start?
I was a dancer, and I just became very anemic. The work was very hard, and so I ran into debt, and the only way that I could get out of debt and support myself was to sell my body.
All right, how'd you do it the first time?
The first time, actually, I was in Mexico, the first time, and I discovered that it was very pleasant work. You know.
You enjoyed it?
Yes, I did. I really did.
And how much did they pay you for this pleasant work?
Well, about $100. But this was a long time ago. Like, if I did it today, my price would be much more.
All right, if it was so pleasant and it was wonderful, why did you get out of it?
Well, it wasn't pleasant when I came back to the U.S., and I found that the attitude of the American men was quite different from Mexican men. And I found that American men had a great deal of contempt for women in the prostitute business, on the average, and that I was not treated with the same love and respect.
How were you treated? How were you treated?
Sort of in a way that men feel guilty. They want you, but they also look down at you. And it's the stigma. The stigma is very painful, and they call you a whore. I mean, not all of them.
How bad did it get?
Not all of them. It got really bad. It was very painful.
What was the worst incident?
I was robbed 3 times. Like, see, men will sometimes have sex with you, and they will pay you, and then after they get finished, they will take the money back and all the money you have in your purse. That happened to me 3 times within 6 months.
Did you ever get beaten?
I almost got terribly injured. I was in a posh hotel in Beverly Hills with a man who said he would pay me $1,000 for modeling, but I had to take all my clothes off, and that he had the clothes I would model and whatnot.
And you've just been showing your breast to us for free. You walked into the makeup room before the show and you said, get a load of these.
Well,
and
I was trying to get your adrenaline up. But anyway, this
There are things I do in the morning to warm up for the show. But that is not one of them.
You mean you didn't like it?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like... What was wrong with it? You don't like breasts?
Some of them I like.
You don't like mine?
I thought that was... it was offensive. It was rude. It was an imposition upon...
You felt guilty. You feel guilty about sex.
No, I didn't feel guilty. I felt like you were imposing upon my space. You were being rude to me. It would be as if I came up in a raincoat to you and flashed myself to you. That's an imposition. That's an attack.
Well...
And I'm not a flasher.
Well, most
and I have respect for other human beings.
Most men like it.
Maybe your problem is that you didn't have respect for yourself.
No, most men like it when women show their bodies. They crave it. They crave it. They crave it.
Okay, well, please try to control yourself while we're on the air here today, because if men like it, I don't know, the FCC might not.
We have here.
All right, Bishop Magic Juan. Is this a name that's a double entendre?
All right there. How you doing now? This is a pleasure to see you again, and I'm honored to be here because, as you know...
When you say it's a pleasure to see me again, it was not...
it's always honored.
It was not in terms of your past services. It was I interviewed you on a...
Well, you know
I
I'm a
interviewed
changed
you on a
man
talk
now.
show once.
Changed man now, Richard. Well,
you were a pimp at one time, right?
Well, for 13 years.
All right,
For 13
you were a
years.
pimp for
Haven't
13
you ever been to a prostitute? Don't you have a sex drive?
I have a sex
You act
drive.
like you're so guilty about sex, and that's what's wrong with men. They love sex. They love
surely
sex,
they do.
but they're always putting it down. Come on,
So
level
what you're saying
with us.
is,
Say
if
the
I feel
truth.
like having sex right now, I should put the money down and have sex with you? I should never control my sexual passion?
But that's not necessarily so like that. You know, it's different stroke for different folks. It depends on where you want this to take place at. It's how your emotions, your desire for an individual will go, and how much you desire to spend or how much you
How many
charge.
girls did you have in your... They give him all the money and they get him?
I really don't think it's a good idea because the way you look like Mr. Gold there, why don't you let them keep the money themselves?
Well, see, that's not the percentage of pimping.
What
You know the reason why
you're
out in the street, you're in a Cadillac and in a Lincoln.
You know
Well, I
the
took good
reason-
care of them. I
You know
supported them.
the reason that women have
You
pimps.
just spread AIDS around.
There's a
That's all you
reason.
do.
Well,
There's a
AIDS
reason.
going to be spread anyway with people that have them kind of intercourses with individuals all
All right, wait a
around.
second. Are you just a good salesman then? Are you like when you have these women?
Well, when I was involved in that, you know, I was the top of the line with peeling flesh. That was my life. That was
See,
my
but pimps are
style.
now passe. They're out of date.
is out of their mind.
Pimps are now out of date.
And
because
no,
of
they're
women's
still
liberty.
out there, but
No,
anybody
they're out
that
of
I'm
date.
sure
They're out
it
of
still
date.
take place.
They're out of date.
Wait a second.
Get out of here.
What said anybody who uses a prostitute is out of their mind. If you want to have sex, do it with your wife. You got a girlfriend, do it with her. Don't go out and pay for one of these sluts to do it.
Yeah,
Wait
wait a
all
second.
these stupid
Well,
girls
hold on
that
for
are
1
going
second because we
around
have to take a break
giving
here.
it to all these
They
stupid
call it
guys
a
for
victimless
free.
crime. Is it a victimless crime in the next second? If for a man having sex is as necessary as going to the bathroom,
Sure it is.
why don't... there are some people who would find that analogy offensive.
Well, that's
Because for some people, they
It's a natural
feel...
function.
It's a natural function,
biology.
but so is talking. But talking isn't like going to the bathroom either, hopefully. You can have your mouth in the gutter, or you can speak the most beautiful poetry in the world.
But
you can
sex
go
is
out
not
and have
evil.
sex that's like going to the
Sex is not
bathroom,
evil.
How many
or you can
people-
go out and
God
have...
made
Or
sex.
else you can
God,
go
who
out...
said sex
Hold
is
on
evil?
for 1
God
second.
ordained it.
Hold on for 1 second.
Wait a
But
minute.
wait a
You said
second.
it's like talking. How many people can control their mouths in
No,
there?
but what I'm saying is this, and let me establish my point, Krista, and then I want you to respond to this. What I'm saying is the power of speech can create the most violent, guttural, dirty words. The power of speech can also create poetry. The power of sex can create something that is on a gutter level, or the power of sex can create something that is on a level.
Are we going to let him
All
decide?
right, guys.
We're going to let that man up there decide like he wanted to for everybody what's good sex and what's bad?
That lady there decide.
What's good
All
reading?
right, you guys hold on for a second. Prostitution should be legalized. Why?
Because it should be controlled, and if it's legalized, people, I don't want to, point out to anybody, but they cannot take the advantage of other people, weaker people.
So you see, it will come over some kind of governmental control. You came here from Turkey, you were telling
From
me.
Istanbul, yes.
From Istanbul. And prostitution's legalized there?
It is, and they have medical checkups all the time, so they're not danger to people. And you can also have like a drinking age. You can put an age to
I
it.
have strong
and
objections
people,
to that I want to state.
Well, what
People-
are your objections to that?
Because this is discrimination against women. They're putting women like some kind of animals, and they are protecting the Johns. Why don't they check the Johns, see if they're sick, see if they have diseases? Protect the women from the Johns, too.
But wait a
Why
second,
only
you're-
protected men
But
from the women?
But if you had to legalize...
Men carry diseases.
wait a
Men
second.
give women diseases.
I know, but the thing is that the Johns are not... How are you going to set up a system
And
where
it's
the Johns are protected?
stigmatizing women, making women carry cards
Well,
for
they
the
could
rest of their
because
life.
they
They're
arrest
stigmatized.
But wait a second,
You're
in lots of
stigmatizing
industries
women.
you have to carry an
You're victimizing
identification
women.
card. In
Well,
order
they
to come in here,
stop- they
I have a
stop jobs.
WWOR identification card. If you work for some of the networks, you have to take a drug test if
The
you
one
work for the
point we
network.
haven't brought up is how society stigmatizes and hurts women, persecutes women.
Well, you know
Yeah,
what?
society-
If you started acting like you had a little
The
respect
law
for
is
yourself
raping
instead of
the women.
flashing your
The
breast,
law is
you might
raping
get some
women.
respect in return.
The
I have
law
a
is
telephone
raping
call right now.
Well,
Good
that
morning,
made
you're on the air.
calling card then.
You're on the air. Speak out. Hello? Hello, you're on.
Okay, I was a prostitute when I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I did it just to survive because I was living on the street.
Where did you do it?
Okay.
Where did you do it?
Well, I first started a job at a strip joint, and that's when it was first introduced to me.
In
and
this
a girlfriend.
In this area, in New York, New Jersey?
Well, in the upstate New York area.
Okay, and you walked the streets?
No, I didn't walk the streets. You know, I didn't pick up people off the street. They didn't pick up me. You know, I was working in a bar, and they came up to me and they asked me if I went out. I didn't even know what that meant. I thought they wanted a date.
How did you feel when they offered you money?
Well, I felt bad at first, you know, but then it was good money, you know.
How good was the money?
Well, sometimes they'd make $300 a night.
$300 a night. All right. After what you've been hearing this morning from some of the people up here, you have done this and you have been through this. You eventually stopped, right?
Yeah.
You're not too sure about that.
Well, see, I'm married right now, okay, and my husband doesn't know about my past. And, well, I try to help him out, so I go out once in a while with this one man. He used to be my sugar daddy.
What you saying?
And what do you tell your husband when you're going out that
Oh,
night?
he doesn't know. See, I'm a cosmetologist, and I have appointments.
Where's
And
somebody
he thinks
approach
I'm
her with the
going to
right money?
cosmetologist appointments.
All right. Wait, well, how much does he pay you?
Who?
The man that you go out with?
How much does your husband
Well,
pay?
$200. Sometimes I don't even have to do anything. He just lends me the money.
And that's a little bit extra. And do you feel bad about that?
Oh, I do.
But you keep going back.
What I would like to know is how many women here are being supported by their husbands, and don't they realize that's the same thing as prostitution? It is. It's exactly the same thing. He gives you money to have sex with him.
You married?
Yes.
You're married?
Stop having sex
You've been a
with your
hooker for
husband.
36
Don't stop
years? You've been doing
money.
this? Is she insulting you by saying that?
Yep, yeah, I
That's
think
not-
so.
No, it's true.
How long have you, are you
Stop
married?
having sex with your husband.
How long have you been married?
50 years, man.
50 years. She's been a hooker for 50 years out here. We have a whole audience full of married hookers out here.
What
Yes,
makes
let me
them
just get
think
back
they're
up here.
better
Yes,
than the
ma'am.
women on
Speak
the
up.
street is what I
40
want
years,
to
and
know.
I don't consider myself a hooker.
What do you consider
don't,
her?
But I do.
She's one, but I'm not.
Okay.
She's doing
It's
it
the
for
same
love.
thing. It's the same thing.
Did you ever go around for love? Did you ever think of God?
All the time.
Sure she do.
All the time.
Sure she do.
Everybody thinks of
Okay,
God.
wait a second. I have a
Prostitutes
long
think of
distance
God.
telephone call right here that I have to
Think of
take
God.
at this very moment.
Right.
Kathleen Bell.
Pimps is because nobody else gives them moral support.
That's right.
I hate to pull a Morton Downey on you. Would you please be quiet for 1 minute? Thank you.
1 minute.
Or in the...
This young woman was 20 years old and desperate, and that's why she started
It wasn't a
prostitution.
desperate
She was
situation.
exploited out of her desperation. That's not right.
You made a very heavy...
Because women can't make money the way
Okay,
men
thank you
can.
very much.
Well, it's
Ann hit
better
the
to
problem
get
right on the head.
Go ahead.
Discrimination.
Ann hit the problem right on the head. The girls that flock to the pimp for the emotional support are coming from families who are not providing the emotional support. If the family was taking care of business,
Not just
they wouldn't be
support.
going to
Not
him
just
for
support
anybody
and
else.
totally.
lot of these
It's got a
kids
lot
are
to do
fleeing
with love and affection also.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the
Krista,
whole
behind the
emotional
screen,
support.
I know you've been dying to jump in here.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you something, though.
Sure.
Do you believe that you are a moral person?
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. But why did you have to wait so long to think of the
that's
answer?
that's a relative word. Moral is...
I'm asking you in your own eyes. I'm not standing here judging
yes,
you. I'm asking
yes,
you to judge yourself.
I do. Yes, I do. Personally, I don't feel as if I'm doing anything wrong.
You have, what, 3 sons?
I have 3 sons and a daughter.
Do your son and a daughter? All right. Suppose your daughter wanted to join your house.
Maybe they are.
Would you allow her to do that?
Well, I don't think that's a problem. She's only 5 years old.
All right, but suppose she grows. Suppose you're doing this in 20 years, and she wants to join your house. How would you feel?
Richard,
How would you feel about that?
If I'm doing this, Richard, if I'm doing this in 20 years, then I have a real
A lot
problem.
of children follow
But all right, wait a second.
I
No,
would not
but you're evading my
want-
question.
No, I'm not. Let me, if you'd all be quiet, I'll answer it. No, I would not want my daughter to be in this business.
Why not? If it's so wonderful and you make so much money and nobody's hurt.
Nobody said it's wonderful. It's a business. I'm in it because I make a tremendous living.
She chose to do it herself.
But hold on, why not have your daughter go into it then?
I don't want my daughter into this. You
Why?
have to be
One of the stigmatize her. That's why, because you're going to hurt her daughter.
You stigmatize.
People like you. Ignorant people.
Rachel.
Ignorant people like you people.
Rachel, you're stigmatizing yourself here right now.
I've heard from hundreds of young women on the street who are over 21 now who have said, I wish there was a Covenant House when I was a kid when I started. I started when I was 15. I started when I was 17. I wish Covenant House had been out here reaching out when I was a young person. And the last thing in the world they want is their kids to be involved because they know what a horrible life it is. And how
we've heard from Krista that she would not employ teenagers.
But that's when they start. And they don't know where to turn for help.
Krista?
Richard, I have to jump in.
Would you please be quiet for one moment?
Everybody
Krista.
be quiet. What this show seems to have evolved into is the issue of children in prostitution.
That's not solely
You have
what the
to
show is.
recognize that most of the women involved in this business are not children. I feel it's tragic that there are kids in this business. They should be scooped up off the street and returned to their parents. And you also have to recognize, which doesn't seem to be brought out enough, that most of the kids that are in this business are also heavily involved with drugs.
Years ago, we put them in the garment business. That's where they were. In the 20s and 30s, they were out there on 38th Street working in the garment business. The kids, the exploited kids. We passed laws. There was a legalization to work. There were unions. Laws were passed. Now there's no kids out there. At least there shouldn't be. Same thing what you're saying. We agree with you 100%. We don't like to see the young girls do that.
Of course not.
I don't want to see young girls. No, if it was legalized,
But a lot of young
it
girls
probably
come
wouldn't
into it
happen.
because of the drugs.
And I'd like the opportunity just to let, if there's anybody out there who doesn't know where to turn to for help, that there is help available, and that's what so many of these kids don't know. We have a 9-line, 1-800-999-9999.
We'll give
Just
that number out at
remember
the end of
9.
the show. Yes.
Great.
I just wanted to say that there could also be people in their 20s and 30s who are emotionally distraught who they could take advantage of also.
Or when they're vulnerable. Or like Rachel says, she was vulnerable, although I wonder if it was just your vulnerability at that time, and it's hard to imagine you being vulnerable at any time. But after you became a prostitute, what did you do after that?
Well, I was also a dancer. When I got back
You mean a
my
stripper?
Yeah, when I got back my strength and I was able to dance, I quit prostitution, mainly because of the persecution. I couldn't stand the stigmatization, being called a whore, and being looked down as the scum of the earth.
So you took a step up and you became a stripper.
I was not the scum of the earth, just because I was selling my body. What's the difference between giving it to these guys for free and selling it? You're better off selling it.
You get paid for it.
What about your nose?
Have you ever been in love?
Who go around giving themselves
Rachel,
for free
have you ever been in
stupid.
love? Listen to a
Yeah,
question.
many times.
You've been in love?
Yes, I've had sex for love.
And you give a discount rate when you're in love.
But see,
You didn't charge.
See, you get the best trick of all when you get married. You've got a steady income. You have to have sex with just one guy. It's the best job in the world.
But you love the man that you're with when you're married.
Sometimes, not always. How many marriages are happy? Really happy? Very few. Why are we having all these
We
divorces?
have an audience full of people here who are trying.
My marriage is happy. Be happy because see, a lot of the married people, they have to go out and have other desires. They get people that won't do things in the home. Some of these wives may not do things that their husband would like to do. Husbands, just like wives, got different kind of fantasies about sex. So they go out to find people that would do them for pay.
And then
So
they
it's
bring
no
AIDS
strings
home to
attached.
their wives at home. They bring AIDS home to their
Yeah,
wives.
it's no strings
All right, we're going to be back in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Prostitution is the world's oldest profession. It has been around for a long, long time. But one thing in our society, we are hypocritical about it. At the same time, whether you think it's good or bad,
That's right.
there are hundreds of places in here where you can go and you can experience it. At the same time, we have all the laws on the books, and we take the policemen out to run around and chase the girls around the corner. For what reason? If you're not really going to get rid of it or prosecute it, if you're going to cast your eye like this, it turns all of us into hypocrites to have the situation that we have now. Let me ask you a question, Krista, behind the screen.
Sure.
If your sons came home from school, your sons are in college, and they came home and they said, Mom, can I come over to your house and have a good time? Would you set them up with one of your hookers in the house?
Well, first of all, they could probably tell me things. Kids today are different than when you and I...
Okay, but suppose they wanted to come over and they wanted one of your girls. Would you set them up?
With the right one, sure.
Okay, very interesting, because you'd set up your son with one of the girls in the house, but you wouldn't want your daughter to be a hooker. That's another part of the double
Of course not.
standard.
This is a voracious business. It's not for the timid at heart.
Okay.
You have to have a set of you-know-whats. to be in
And
this.
she certainly does have a set of you-know-whats, Rachel. That's all the time we have in this segment. I'd like to thank all... Yes.
I've been back in the green room with this lady. She's really a sweetheart. You know, please do not let... this girl is...
Maybe you can give her a good job. We'll set that up.
I don't think she
got
needs
the
a
best
good
job
job.
in the world, a husband.
I didn't say a John. I said
Well.
a job. I have to go to break right now.